Hello, hello, welcome. I am very excited about this stream this week, and I think this is the first stream that we've done of the new year. So it is very late to say Happy New Year, but it's the first one back, so I'm going to say it anyway. Happy New Year. So this one is all about how to play the LinkedIn game and win, and I'm really excited for this one. I think it's a great one to kick off the series of Get Social for 2025 because we know LinkedIn is having a moment right now. There's so much opportunity on LinkedIn, and we've got the perfect person to come and talk to us about how to capture it. I'll intro you to Luke in a second, and the flow of today is going to be in two parts. So, firstly, we're going to be talking about what's changed on LinkedIn, the updates to the algorithm that Luke's going to guide us through, ways that we can help our content stand out. So once we've gone through some of that best practice with Luke, then I'm going to guide you through as to how we can bring some of that to life with Adobe Express. And of course, we are live as well, so feel free to pop in any questions in the chat because we'd love to get any of those questions that you have related to how you stand out on LinkedIn answered for you. So with that, quick bit of intro. If we've not yet met, I'm Andy. I'm one of the product managers here working on Adobe Express. So if you've not yet used Adobe Express, it's your all-in-one AI-driven content creation app. So do check it out. Do have a try of it. It's free to use as well. And any questions you have, feel free to come back to me directly. Always happy to hear your feedback. Right. So that's my update, my quick intro done, and let's get into the real star of the show today. So Luke, do you want to start with a bit of an intro and let's dive in?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. It's great to be on. Thrilled to be here with you and Adobe today. So, yeah, I guess just in terms of introduction to me, I'm the managing director and founder of OST. We're a B2B social agency based in Cambridge in the UK. And I've been in this game 25 years now for my sins. So kind of worked with big brands, startups, SMEs, all the range. And really, I've spent the last 18 months diving into LinkedIn and looking at the algorithm, trying to work out how it works, what it means for businesses. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today.
All right, well, I think with that, let's dive straight into it, Luke. And I mean, you and I have known each other for a long time, actually. So we both had a long journey together in the world of social. So, and we've seen it evolve rapidly. And I think, as I said in the intro, like LinkedIn is having a moment right now. It seems. Well, it certainly seems to me. Well, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, other social networks that will remain nameless are falling by the wayside. Others are being banned, but LinkedIn is marching forward. So yeah, absolutely, it's the time. So I'll share some insights on that in a minute.
Yeah, well, let's dive right in. I think everyone's very keen, and yeah, it's great to see the chat lighting up. Hey Onda, hey Vilgna, hey Deb, lovely to see you all here. So any questions you have, I'll be monitoring that. So fortunately, it's not going to be
Fantastic.
thinking much today. It's all about Luke. So any questions, I'll pose them to Luke as we go. So with that, Luke, let's dive
I'll
into
jump in. Thanks, Andy. Yeah, do ask some questions. I love to get sort of interspersed with questions as we go through. So yeah, I mean, how to play the LinkedIn game and win. The idea of this is that I'm going to give you a run through of kind of how to grow your LinkedIn presence organically. So whether you're an individual, SME, whether you're working for a company or a corporate, this is all relevant to you. And as I say, I've spent pretty much the last 18 months looking at various stats and insights around this. So some are third-party reports, and I'll cite those as I go through. Others are from our work as an agency. We work with quite large brands, so we get really great insights into kind of what works and what doesn't. So I've integrated those in as well. So yeah, let me jump in then. So first off, it's probably worth asking, why should we care about organic growth on LinkedIn? A lot of companies, a lot of individuals really only focus on their paid activities and get good results. So why bother with organic? So there's three things really just to say. So one is there are over 1 billion active users on LinkedIn now. This is a post they put out at the end of 2023 to announce this. And what this really means is there are individuals of influence within every industry in almost every country now. So there's a few countries where it's less popular. I was doing a project in Japan not too long ago, and actually in Japan they're not that into LinkedIn, but in other countries and certainly in the West, everybody seems to be on it these days. So if you are trying to reach an audience, chances are they're findable on LinkedIn. Also, just in terms of the paid side of things, as I alluded to earlier on, we've seen the rapid decline of X over the last couple of years, certainly as far as B2B goes and advertising. So this is just a quote from an agency, Outcast, saying as much. So their clients have shifted away from X onto LinkedIn pretty much completely now, and we echo that as well. So what this has meant is that the paid side of LinkedIn, which, depending on your industry, used to be quite a good place to go out and reach people and not overly expensive, has become a bit more costly. So by estimates, nobody really knows other than LinkedIn, but general estimates are it's gone up 30%, the advertising costs on LinkedIn over the last year. And really, so that brings me to my last point, which is, if you're a company or if you're an individual or a small business spending money on LinkedIn, there's spending quite a lot to reach people. So the cost per click actually can be quite expensive. You see there, 10% of companies spending more than $10,000 a month on LinkedIn ads. There's a real opportunity to look away from the paid, look to the organic and see what you can do there. So that's really the shout out for this presentation is what can you do through the organic side of things? So just to kind of sum up the LinkedIn problem, and I've got one of my design colleagues here just to kind of mock up what I see on LinkedIn. And these are the organic variety of posts that you'll quite often come across. They're not real companies. I hesitate to don't hesitate to tell you. So the first one, I call this the Crowing Cockerel Corporation. We're thrilled to have done this thing. Humble brag, humble brag, humble brag. It's a thinly disguised sales post. And everybody can spot it. Nobody likes it. They get very little engagement, maybe some of their employees. But what this says to me is you don't know your audience. So this says you haven't thought about what your audience is thinking about today, and you've completely missed the mark with them. And this really goes to the heart of where most companies, and I think a lot of individuals, go wrong with LinkedIn, is they're not thinking about the challenges that their audience are facing. So that's definitely a no-no. Second one I've got is around employees. So I've called this the Forced Fun Foundation. Our employees are really happy. We laugh every day. Here's us laughing. And they put out pictures showing their employees and how fun it is to work in the business. And there's a logic behind this. I can see that you'd want to do this. You'd want to encourage employees to engage, etc. But actually what it says is you're targeting people like your employees, and your customers aren't necessarily just like your employees. So the message LinkedIn gets from posts like this is that it wants to share your content with people like your employees, not your potential customers. So you're actually going to the wrong audience potentially. And this gets to the heart of how difficult it is to target an audience on LinkedIn. Actually, you can't try and target two audiences and succeed. And the third one I've got here is the classic thing, which doesn't happen so much anymore, thankfully, but is kind of like putting a press release out through the wrong channel. But this, you often see news items, things that really aren't that relevant to most people that the company just wants to say, and they've decided to say it through LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, like all social networks, is a conversational medium. It's designed for interaction, whereas this is a full stop. So whenever I see this kind of stuff, I say to my clients, whatever you do, don't put a full stop ad on LinkedIn, because nobody can respond to it really, other than maybe the company you've partnered with, as this post highlights. So really what these all get to to sort of highlight the challenge of is misreading your audience and not really thinking about that conversational aspect of LinkedIn. Just click us on. So the way to really solve this problem is to understand the LinkedIn algorithm. So I've mentioned it, and it sounds a scary thing, but fundamentally, all I mean by this is, how does LinkedIn work? How can we understand the levers and the signals that control who gets to see our content on LinkedIn? And LinkedIn has three things that it looks at to decide who sees your post. So first one is, it's an automated check. Is your post spam? So LinkedIn will just look at it and go, if it's repeated content, if it's plagiarized content, if it's purely designed to harvest engagement, it will deprioritize your post. So I don't imagine anyone listening to this is going to suffer from this, but it occasionally does. Funnily enough, they have deprioritized reaction polls, which LinkedIn used to do themselves. So I've highlighted that here. The second one is around the quality of your post. So is your post any good? It's asking itself. And this is primarily dictated by the degree of engagement that you get. So the likes, the comments, the shares, the views, the clicks that you're getting on your post. So there's a quantitative aspect to this. You want to get lots of likes and shares and comments, but there's also a qualitative aspect. So what are those comments saying? Do they include the keywords and phrases relating to your topic, for example? Are they substantial, i.e. a paragraph, not just, great post, Andy, whatever? That is a qualitative kind of measure. It's also around kind of who's engaging with your content. So are those people the right kind of people relevant to your industry? And then the third one is kind of LinkedIn looks at who it's going to show your content to. So what's your relationship to these people? Are you contacts? Are you in the same groups with them? Have you engaged with them recently? Do they engage with content on this topic and similar to yours? And all of these factors play into the relevance of the content to those individuals. So, example here, a couple of individuals, I'm sure Andy knows in the social media space, but very relevant for me. And when I see them commenting on my posts, I think, great, I'm reaching the right people. These are exactly the kind of people who should be getting exposed to my content. So between these three things, you get a baseline idea of how LinkedIn works.
Question on this for you, Luke, actually. So when you mention is the post high quality, likes, comments, shares, so engagement ultimately, is all engagement created equal, or is there something that's higher weighted than others? So if we got lots of likes but not many comments, or lots of comments, not many likes, is there anything we should focus for?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, a like is kind of a low bar, I think in musical terms, is it a minim, the smallest, possible note. Whereas, you're looking at something a bit grander, you're going for comments, and obviously shares are very important. They're a real endorsement of your content. So shares are very much up there. There's also things like dwell time. So if somebody's spending a while reading your post or watching your video, that is a good qualitative metric as well. So there's a number of things, but certainly if you can go for high quality comments, meaningful comments or shares, then you're onto a bit of a winner.
Love it. Really interesting. Thanks, Luke.
Cool. So then, just to sort of sum up the LinkedIn algorithm then in a couple of images here, there's a sort of push and pull side to this. So the push side is if you always post high quality content that's relevant to your target audience, they will get to see more of your content. And the pull side really is if a user always engages with your content, they will be served more of it in their feed. And for both of these, I think the key thing is that you can control the signals that dictate this and what LinkedIn reads. So certainly in terms of your content, the quality of your content, you can control that, but you can also make sure that people are starting to engage with your content. You can nurture that engagement. So I think a lot of people look at LinkedIn and put a post out and just think that's it. You can actually control a lot of the impact you have.
I think here there's an important distinction actually between LinkedIn algorithm versus Instagram, for example, or TikTok, for instance, right? So LinkedIn is still one of those platforms, at least it certainly seems to me, I'm interested in your take, where it feels like you can be much more controlling about how you build your audience, right? So you can choose who you connect with, for example. And it's, once you connect with someone, you're going to mutually follow each other's content. So that's one thing. And the second piece is that it's much more still about your social and follower graph, right? So the more connections you have will still see your content. Whereas on Instagram, likely 50% of your followers, and on the same case on TikTok, are not going to see your content because your content's just in a recommendation engine. So I think it's important distinction between the two. It's a lot more follower graph based than the other platforms, which seem to be shifting increasingly recommendation based. So that's my
Yes.
take. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are lots of sort of micro connections, if you like. So being in the same group as somebody,
Mm.
that's a sort of long tail connection that you can have to somebody. So any of these interactions that you have with individuals just add to the relevance that you would have for them, and vice versa. So I guess the other thing is the big difference with LinkedIn. It's a thought leadership medium. So whereas other channels, they can be much more around the media themselves rather than the message. LinkedIn is much more about the message. And I think that's the bit that really works for B2B, especially.
Yeah, and I think it's probably a nice segue. For Stacey's asked a really interesting comment, saying, "I've started getting comments that are unedited AI." I think we can probably, yeah, we both chuckles that. My post has clearly been pasted into ChatGPT and asked for a response. They fall into the more substantial comment category because likely they're probably quite chunky responses, but ultimately are formulaic and do little for the conversation. Will the LinkedIn algorithm see through this issue, which are obviously about volume of comments rather than anything meaningful? Really good question, Stacey. Thank you. What
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, my answer to that is we don't know what the LinkedIn algorithm is going to do, and actually, LinkedIn is getting into this game itself. So it's actually prompting people to use their AI tools to create their posts. And if you've used that feature, then you'll know that it's not far off what you've just described in terms of the output. I wouldn't say it's there in terms of a human, um, something that resonates with humans necessarily at the moment. So it's definitely a challenge. And unfortunately, there are various platforms you can get that will plug into LinkedIn that will do this for you as well at the moment. Ultimately, though, if it's not working for you and you're reading it, it won't be working for other people. And I think we as users are the people who'll dictate the success of these activities, these tools and things. So yes, people will start posting, but I think it all comes down to whether people react and respond to your content. And if they don't, then yeah, I think they'll die a death or have to improve dramatically to be picked up.
And my take on this as well, Stacey, I agree with Luke's views. Probably going to get worse before it gets better because there are more tools that are allowing people to do AI automated spam comments. One, AI will get better at adding more value to the conversation, but two, having comments like that, even though they do nothing for the conversation in the thread, so it's your choice whether you want to get rid of it. I personally keep them because it's still get counted as engagement and comments, so it's still positive, a positive signal to your post, even if it is ultimately not valuable commentary. So
Yeah,
I think this is a wait and see, but I don't feel it's like a big problem right now. Problem for
yeah,
like experience of the platform, but it's not a problem. It's not going to detriment our posting success. That's my take
yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Fair comment. So just going back to the sort of the algorithm and kind of how we know this. It's just worth taking a step back because it's quite interesting. You know 2 or 3 years ago when we all suffered the pandemic, um, LinkedIn had a moment, shall we say? A large number of people joined the platform who weren't habitual users. A lot of influencers joined the platform, wanting to see it as another way of reaching new audiences. And what we started to see was posts propping up in our feeds from people we didn't know. A lot. They call it the Facebookification of LinkedIn kind of occurred. And the interesting thing was in reaction to that, LinkedIn changed the algorithm. So they actually made some quite sweeping changes during 2023 and actually followed on with some in 2024. And one of the reports, and I'll quote Richard van der Bloom's algorithm report here, showed the impact of those changes as the reach, engagement, and follower growth, in fact, dropped off for a lot of people. And the great thing with this actually showed us kind of the impact. We were able to sort of A/B test how it was before to how it was after, and start to get a feel for what had changed on the algorithm. Um, and actually, some of the metrics were really insightful from that. So I just pulled this table out. So we think about impact of sort of content visibility from these changes. At the top here, the top two boxes are ads. So promoted company content, LinkedIn ads, they doubled in visibility in our feeds over that sort of 2-year period. And I think we all felt that. And then if you look in the middle, organic company content, which for anyone trying to manage a company page will have been very difficult over this period, it diminished by 2/3. So your visibility dropped off a cliff. At the bottom, content from other creators, that's you and me and others who are sort of not quite superstars, but out there, our reach dropped off by halved. And then these chaps here, top creators, their reach doubled. So really the reaction to this is you need to be a top creator to be taking advantage on LinkedIn. So how do you do that? So there's a whole load of insights that come out of some of these reports, and certainly our own analysis of LinkedIn. But here's a flavor. So my advice to start with would be to be more strategic about LinkedIn. So you're doing marketing, you would have an SEO strategy for your website. You would have your keywords, the words you want to be well known for, identified, and you would have sub keywords that are relating to that main keyword. Really need to think about LinkedIn in a similar way. So what topic do you want to be the thought leader? What other subjects relate to that? You then need to be posting regularly. So there's a whole load of other stuff you can do, which helps. But if you're not posting, you really won't be getting that far with LinkedIn. So a couple of posts a week is what the recommended sort of minimum is. You then need to be sharing opinions, knowledge, or advice. So you saw my 3 examples before that failed dismally. This is the push towards thought leadership that we all need to be embracing to get anywhere. And then the last one is about starting conversations. I mentioned it earlier. If you're not having open-ended conversations, you're not using LinkedIn for the purpose that it was created. So that's the sort of opening gambit. Then just in terms of your actual post itself, there's a whole load of stuff you can do to make sure you're maximizing your appeal to the algorithm. So and individuals and people reading it. So first one is make it easy to read. So line spacing, light, appropriate use of emojis, making sure people can just scan down it nice and easily. Having a killer opening line, the first 210 characters is crucial, because after that you've got the little see more button. And if you can get people to click on that see more button, it's worth 5 times more than a like on your post. Just that one click on that button. You want to, where you can, avoid links away from LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, like all social networks, hates for people to leave their environment. So they will penalize you if you're seen to be encouraging that by putting external links in. And a lot of companies and individuals will put blog post links to their website, and immediately, they decimate their reach. So your reach will drop off by between 20 and 35%, depending on, kind of the type of link, where it is, and things like that the LinkedIn looks at. And there are some workarounds for that as well. So I've seen people putting links in comments, leaving it half an hour or an hour after the post goes live, putting it into the comments, and others, linking to LinkedIn articles and things like that. But fundamentally, try and avoid it if you can. If you have to put the LinkedIn link in, make sure that your post is fantastic around that. And then lastly on here, vary your formats. So if you put out 3 posts of the same format repeatedly, again, you'll be dropping your reach by perhaps 30% on that latter post. So you want to be mixing up the formats. And then just to elaborate on the conversation point that I mentioned earlier on, this is absolutely crucial. And most B2B clients that I work with aren't thinking about conversations at all when I walk in the door. And this is the one thing I want them to really adopt. So encouraging comments by putting calls to action and, comment and tell me what you think, engage with this content. Tagging experts is a key part of that. So, making sure that you've got friendly internal and external experts in your business that you can draw into the conversation. Nurturing in the first hour, so making sure you're responding and replying to people, driving that conversation as soon as it starts to ferment on your page. And lastly, don't be afraid to comment on your own posts. I've seen people hesitating, not wanting to be there, but yes, it's not as good as a comment from an expert in your sector, an independent expert, but it's still a comment, and it all helps drive that engagement. So there's a flavour there. Andy, I don't know if you've got any things that you'd recommend. You're a top creator yourself.
No, this is all good stuff, and I think that nurturing post that is like a big plus one from me, because that rings very true. Any time of example where I've posted, and if I don't respond to people that have commented on the post in a timely fashion, it's one of the binds of LinkedIn, to be honest, because we like to post and then get on with the rest of our day, but it makes such a difference, because I can see the difference in the afternoon. When I've posted in the morning, I hadn't responded to anyone, I'll notice the post will underperform compared to others. So just set it and forget it doesn't seem to kind of work with LinkedIn. So it certainly picks up on your point. So let me answer or ask some questions, because there's been some really, really brilliant questions here. And it just says LinkedIn user here, so sorry I can't see a name here. So it says interesting figures on the changes from the 21 to 23. What's the feeling on how these may have changed during 2024, given that the platform seems to have grown so much, increase in users over the last year? So as a result of like the mass migration away from X and other platforms. So have we seen any other fundamental shifts over the course of 24 is the question here.
Yeah, so the only one just going back to the Richard van der Bloem report, the algorithm report, there was an update in the autumn, early winter, which was a smaller update from their team. The one thing that jumped out at me was the increase in the frequency of visibility of posts from the same people. So, you may have noticed this in your feed. You'll start to see, repeated posts from the same people. You'll see every one of their posts and maybe none of a whole group of other people. And what this kind of suggests to me is that there's within that sort of keyword, that topic that you're evidently tagged as being interested in by LinkedIn, there's not enough good quality content. There aren't enough people posting at the quality that's needed to be reaching into your feed. And actually in a lot of sectors, and this is the amazing opportunity for B2B, there is a real paucity of good quality content. So if you can crack it, if you can be the number one in your space, however niche it is, you should be getting massive amounts of visibility within that niche. So that was a really interesting insight, I think, from the update. The only other one is that things like PDF sliders or document posts, actually, but PDFs you can post organically. They were doing brilliantly, last year, the year before. They've had a sort of 50%, I think it is, drop in their visibility over the last year. So just worth watching some of these fluctuations in terms of how post formats do.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point regarding formats, because they really push those PDF carousels. So we'll talk more about some formats in a second. Remy, it's a really good question here. How can we stand out as professionals within our industry while at the same time promoting the companies we work for? What's the strategy where it's not looking like the humble brag approach that you referred to earlier?
Yeah, anyone, companies or individuals, can avoid humble brag by not boasting about your own activities, but simply providing some value. So, if you have won an award, explain what you've done that's amazing, why you won it, not that you won it, if you know what I mean. So it's providing that value overall. What was the original bit of the question? I've just missed I've lost my thread.
How do we stand out as professionals within our industries, but balance the personal brand with the promotion? They're still saying we work for a company, naturally trying to drive some commercial outcome here too. So how do we balance that?
Yeah, I think there is a shift kind of away from the emphasis being on corporate pages towards thought leaders within businesses. Which is our client who's just signed off an equal budget pretty much for their senior execs as their corporate page, which is interesting to see. So I think there is an understanding that individuals and your own personal brands are super valuable for your employers. So I think pushing that should be done, equally alongside the corporate brand, and people shouldn't be sort of afraid of that anymore. I think there was a hesitation in the past that perhaps you'd go off and find a different job somewhere else and reap the benefits, but I think companies are getting over that issue now. So yeah, I would push it as hard as you possibly can in terms of your own personal brand. You shouldn't be selling on social, no matter what you're doing. You should be drawing people, leading people to you with insights and value. So I think that's the other side of that.
Yeah, definitely with you on that. So insights, value, leading with those opinions and knowledge or advice that you reference, because naturally those things aren't mutually exclusive between how do we build our own personal brands while still driving a commercial outcome. Ultimately, naturally, there should be some nice overlapping then between our own expertise as individuals and the organizations we work for. When we find what's in the middle of that then we can figure out what those insights and tips and best practices within the sweet spot that exists between what we care about as individuals, but also what drives the economic engine of our businesses we work for. Hopefully that makes sense. There was another really interesting question before we move on. I can't see who that was from now, but it was pertaining to, do the connections we have on LinkedIn impact them seeing our content? I do know the answer to this, but I'm gonna
yes is the answer. Yes, they do. So when we talk about the relationship you have with individuals, there's a hierarchy of those relationships, and there's an accumulation of all the little signals around how much they engage with you and you engage with them to dictate who gets to see your stuff. But fundamentally, yes, if you've got target customers, connect with them, follow them, engage with them, send them messages. LinkedIn messages has an impact as well. So all of that stuff will help to make sure you get exposure to them.
I think that builds on the point I made earlier. It's such a delightful thing about LinkedIn is that when you connect with someone, they will see more of your content, provided they accept the connection. Obviously, your content will be unfairly weighted in their feed after you've just accepted them or they've accepted you as a new connection. So there is no other network that allows us such an intentional way of saying, here's my target audience, I'm going to go to them, connect with them, create obviously a nice connection message that is relevant, so they will increases the likelihood that they accept your connection request. But once they do, then hopefully the valuable content you'll be sharing will get unfairly weighted in their feed. And that is not something that's offered by any other social network. So do leverage that. We have to be intentional about how we build our network on LinkedIn.
Great point. Yeah, 100%. Great point.
Cool. All right.
Shall I move us on?
Loving the questions.
Keep them coming, folks. So I threw in a few examples here, and a couple that I hope will jar a little bit. So this is just one from a company, and I work with a lot of companies. They always struggle, and quite often they say, we need to be putting out really strong creatives with every single post, and that really isn't the case necessarily. So if you look at Gong, sales company designed, for salespeople, really, that's their target audience. They put this post out, typical post of theirs, starts with the keyword and phrase they want to get out. So pattern interrupt, very, light touch, text only post, an interesting little stat in there, bit of encouragement, and it drove good engagement. It's not changed the world, but if you're concerned about the resource and the time you spend doing these things, as long as you're getting something of value to your audience, this is perfectly fine. And the same for an individual. You could be doing this kind of post and getting some good results. So it just shows a good understanding of their audience, to be honest, to me. And then a similar one, text only. I mean, this probably took, a couple of minutes to write it. It's from LinkedIn themselves. The thing I like about this is it really encourages you to engage. So code switching at work is reality for 60% of Black professionals. And then it's got a sort of call to arms, if you like. How can we contribute to a workplace that offers values authenticity, share your perspective, support your colleagues. So it's a really good call to action that they've included there that's drawn people through. Then little post from Tim. I know I've got featured Tim twice in this. I'm not quite sure why, but anyway, he does some good posts. The thing I liked about this was I always talk about, make sure you get your keywords into your posts, because as soon as you go kind of off topic, LinkedIn gets confused. It downweights you for the topics you want to be ranking for and visible for. So Tim says here, most of my content is about influencer marketing and B2B marketing. So he's got his keywords in there. And then he talks about something else. So just clever. He's kept it on topic, but he's kind of got his keywords in there, and now we can talk about something slightly different.
I think this picks up on something you mentioned earlier, and I think it's worthwhile reiterating this point. When you've mentioned keywords a lot, and you've also mentioned you can't target multiple audiences. So what we're saying here is that LinkedIn wants us to be known for something, right? And for crystal clear about what it is that we do and we want to be known for. That's what I'm deducing from what you're saying. So that right?
Yeah, 100%. And you can't be an expert for LinkedIn on two radically different things. So if you're a big company, this is a great example, Infosys global corporation, you're trying to be an expert on digital transformation, sustainability, all these different things. So you need to find a sort of pyramid of keywords that relate closely to each other to get that expertise out there. And it's a real challenge. But as an individual, it's the same challenge. If you're in wildly different spaces with wildly different audiences, you should really think about whether you can cater for them all through a single LinkedIn account, because it's not designed for that.
Yeah.
So just as another example here, I show these because it is one of the hardest things that corporates struggle with is, how do we drive engagement on LinkedIn? And this ticks the box for a lot of what I'm talking about. So they've focused on thought leadership, they've tagged an expert, and they've quoted an expert in it. He's an internal expert, but still, it's still an expert. They've got proper line spacing in there. They've got a really nice call to action. There's a nice graphic. It's actually a audiogram in there. And sure enough, their expert's gone in and commented and actually tagged a whole load of other experts. So the conversation has threaded on from that. So it's a really smartly designed post.
Question. I can see a bunch of tags in here too. So Jenny's asked a question which I'm very pleased you asked that, Jenny. Everyone wants to know this one, which is, how valuable are hashtags in reaching your target audience? Do they follow the same rules as keywords?
Yeah, interesting. So I used to recommend including hashtags. They were a sort of smart way of getting your keywords in without necessarily, sort of stuffing your keywords into your phrases, into your writing. Actually, LinkedIn is starting to discontinue hashtags. So I'm not sure what the rollout of this is, but my understanding is they will stop being clickable in due course. And actually, the keywords and phrases will need to be in your text. So it's fine for now, but just watch out, because I think they're going to disappear soon. But unless you have other news, Andy, tell me, got any other insights?
No, I think generally across social media, we're seeing a diminishing in importance and relevance of hashtags in general. They can be useful for influencer campaigns, tracking things together and threading elements together. But outside of that, they have very little user utility. Ask yourself, if you use LinkedIn, when's the last time you went ahead and followed a hashtag and saw content just related to that hashtag that you follow? I cannot remember me doing either of those, to be honest. But yeah, I know this question comes up a lot. So yeah, hashtags very much on the descendancy. I think that's kind of social media 1.0, and we're moving away from that. But anyway, conscious of Luke, let's crack
on. Right. I'll whiz through. I've got another couple of examples. Well, actually, just the one here. So I've mentioned Richard a few times. He's very much focused on the kind of personal branding aspects of LinkedIn, I guess. But he also does best practice posts. So as I said here, he's got a very strong opening line here. I said no to a potential 80 grand annual deal. So lots of people are going to click on that. He's got a PDF slider there, which will add to the engagement levels. He's got the line spacing. He's got a really smart call to action here. Useful. Do this. Leave an additional comment to deepen the discussion. He's got his little sales pitch at the bottom, which you don't often see. He's drawn a little line, and he's got his own little thing in there to respond to him, which no reason why you shouldn't do that. And then he's actually used his own comments to promote an event. Which, again, why not? Get in there, join the discussion. If there's enough people engaging, you can start to do that. So, yeah, he's worth watching just from a sort of best practice perspective. He's usually the first to be trying stuff out in terms of post formatting. And just to show you that this works, so this is from my team's work over the last year, really, with a global tech brand, we shall say, that's remain anonymous for now. But so we, over the last 6 months, have applied what I've just been talking to you about. And the interesting thing, I guess, with big brands is they won't let you do everything. You can't fundamentally go in and re-engineer their brand, brand book and stuff like that. But there are certain things you can do. So for these guys, we developed their keyword strategy. We reduced the overt branding in their posts, so made them less kind of salesy. We focused on starting conversations. We started integrating third-party experts into their posts. We made sure comments were nurtured, and this is a half-hour SLA, so we're in there within 30 minutes, responding and engaging. And we reduced the number of external links. So this over the 6 months towards the end of last year. So these are the results we saw from this. So, and actually, I think in consumer worlds, you may say, oh, well, that's, doubling or an increase, but in B2B, those kind of numbers are spectacular. So it's, not revolutionary, but just by making some of these smaller changes, you can have a big impact. So I'd recommend starting with some of these, certainly.
Nice work.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm really, really pleased to see that. So just in summary about playing the LinkedIn game and winning, what do you need to do? 3 things. So create content for a specific audience and that relates to your core topic. So you're thinking about who your audience is, what your core topic is. Make sure you're sharing an opinion, knowledge, or advice, not just news. So this has got to be valuable insight. And then the third bit, as I've reiterated, creating meaningful engagements from experts, ideally, on your core topic. And if you do all those 3 things, you will be as popular as Andy is on LinkedIn, which is saying something. Have I got time for some bonus points?
Oh, definitely do, because it's good stuff. Right. So, yeah, absolutely.
Right. We've even got a bonus splash page for you there. So 3 newish opportunities on LinkedIn. So first one, LinkedIn premium company pages. So if you are running a business, small business, this is came about last year. The idea is that you can pay $99 a month and you get a few more advantages over companies that don't pay. There's a bunch of stuff on here, but the ones I'd highlight are, so who visited my page? You do get these insights, which could be great from a sales perspective, but you only get 1 per day, which is a bit crap in my book. If you've got hundreds of people looking at a page, or thousands if you're a brand, you get 1 name per day, which is a bit rubbish. The other one that's worth looking at is number 5. So anyone who engages with your content on your page will get an auto invite to follow your page.
That's cool.
Now, that's really cool. So we switched that on as an agency, and we saw a 40% increase in follows over the subsequent months. So it's probably worth it just for that. But the rest of it is a bit meh, I would say. There you go. There's a few other things. The other one, you've probably seen this, but LinkedIn's video-only feed. So I'll just Playlist. So it's a little feed that you get separate from the main feed, and it pulls through the portrait-only video content that's posted to the platform. So the encouragement here really is to post portrait videos. Selfie videos are perfect for this kind of thing, because we're actually seeing posts that get into this feed get substantially more reach than they do in the standard feed. And along with reach, you get the engagement and you get the uplift for your page as well through that. Obviously, typically you get fewer comments. That's just the way it works with video usually, but it's still definitely worth doing. Again, Andy, I don't know if you've got any insights on this while I'm on it.
Oh, I'll share something in a second, actually. But yeah, this phrase is overused, game changing. But I can't think of another verb to describe this. But it is game changing for reach, and clearly LinkedIn are going pretty much all in on video. So if you're not creating video today, I think my strong advice is to try and start doing this, because I think you made this point earlier, Luke, where there isn't enough good quality content on LinkedIn for the attention that's on the platform. So this is a great arbitrage opportunity.
Yeah, and it's still a sort of relatively new, so you can get in there and you get sort of unusually high engagement and reach at the moment on it. And just very lastly, just a little thing I saw that might be relevant. I know we've got a lot of maybe freelancers, designers on the call as well. So there's a new thing that LinkedIn is testing where you can promote your personal posts. So they brought out something last year where you could promote the senior execs, posts from your senior execs and thought leaders from your company, and indeed third-party experts. But this is for individual personal accounts. You can start to post, to put money behind your post. So I would say this is definitely, if you're going to spend money on your business, don't put it through your company page, put it through your personal page once this rolls out. So hopefully in a few months, we'll all be able to jump into this and start promoting our content.
I am excited for that. That is for sure.
Absolutely.
We got 3 questions I want to pose to you, and I know
right.
we'll leave that page up for a second so people can connect with you, and I'm sure if they've got specific questions for you, you're a super helpful and knowledgeable guy around this. So do connect with Luke. So there was one question about newsletters, which I can't see right now, but I was going to ask you this question anyway, because newsletters seem quite significant on LinkedIn. Any takes on LinkedIn newsletters?
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly, if you've got, producing a newsletter isn't substantially different from a LinkedIn article. I mean, it's very similar in terms of the time input and how it's laid out. So I think, yes, I would do it if you have the time and resource. It's certainly worth doing. You need to think about what's the hook for your newsletter? Why would anybody want to follow and engage with it? So get to your keywords and your audience strategy as well. But yes, I would. My only real advice is yes, I would do it if you've got the time and resource. I believe it's one of the great strategies that LinkedIn's brought out in the last year or two, and it will contribute to your algorithm, your reach of your posts and things like that. So it's another connection with people that you can then use to make sure they see your other content and posts as well. So, but yes, you run a newsletter yourself, Andy, don't you? So, what's your take on it?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. For the predominant reason, as soon as you launch a newsletter, it announces it to all your followers. So if you've got a good quality follower base that's engaged and you have been diligent about connecting with the right people that are your target audience, and a notification is pinged out and they even get an email to their personal email, whatever they've signed up with LinkedIn, to say, come sign up to Andy's newsletter, which is amazing. And it means every single subsequent connection, if they accept my connection request, get a notification to say, don't forget to subscribe to Social 3.0, which is my newsletter. So it's like, it really is a double whammy for when you connect with people. So just putting those very deliberate things around how you approach LinkedIn can be really, really powerful. Two other questions, and I'll quickly touch on Adobe Express, but I was too interested in your comments to get into my stuff. Um, Based on the hashtag conversation, Shane is saying, do hashtags not help you find previous posts? Which I guess they do, that kind of help you link it. But I think the point we're
Yeah.
making here is that it doesn't really aid discovery for like net new discovery. If someone's on your post, they might go and look through some more, maybe. But for getting
Yeah.
hashtags not so important. That's why I think.
Yes, 100%. I mean, yeah, we have tested it for a few clients where you put unique hashtags on and then you see how many people have, gone and subscribed to that hashtag. We've run quite big campaigns and had 3 people subscribing to the hashtag, where it's just yeah, it's not a indicative metric really. So yeah, I wouldn't worry. So for the time being, they're useful for keywords, getting them into your content when you haven't got them in the paragraphs.
Got it. Perfect. And this question from Isabella that I'll answer really quickly. When you're working with influencers on LinkedIn, do you need to disclose that the post is an ad? Absolutely. Definitely. Please do. And there's a little paid partnership toggle, and just to make sure all of your influencers are compliant. So definitely need to do that. Right. For the final 2 minutes, hopefully in a second, you'll be able to see my screen. So I'll give you an example of video feed. Those impressions were never before possible, right? So this is just something I put out last week. The likes and comments are nothing major, but since the LinkedIn video feed introduction, video impressions, so the ultimate number of people that see your content, has risen dramatically. So I also want to show a couple of angles for Adobe Express, which allows you to create some of the kind of standout content that Luke was mentioning. If you're not familiar with Adobe Express, it's free to use if you're part of the Creative Cloud subscription, and free to use in a non-premium way as well. So 3 angles I want to show you. So on one side, all of the video content that I create is created with Adobe Express. Unfortunately, sorry for showing you my face again. So all of my transitions, all of the things that I'm going to put in my videos, one thing that's really cool is like overlaying video on top of video in this. We can have some animations and that kind of stuff. We can choose when elements come in on the timeline. You'll be familiar with this, but it's kind of drag and drop video editing, of which I can share it directly to LinkedIn as well, and schedule that as well, or schedule it to multiple different platforms as well. So that's the video context. Then there's a couple of other angles. So you'll know an example that Luke shared from Richard van der Blom, who's definitely someone you should go and follow, as well as following Luke. He often does these carousel posts so that you swipe through. They are PDF posts, so document posts. So you can create them in Adobe Express too. If you want to get some inspiration, you could just click on templates. And because we're sharing knowledge and advice, we're going to search for top tips. And we're going to look at anything with, multiple page templates. So we can take any of these, and you might think, all right, this is quite cool. So top tips from our graphic design team with tip 1, 2, and 3. Of course, this is not going to suit you straight off the bat, but what you can easily do is go into your brands, and you can apply all of your brand colors with just one single click. So this is my own kind of personal brand stuff. So now all on my brand colors, and I can just edit the components to this. And now we can easily create a top tips post. And final thing I want to share is that we can really easily repurpose content. So I've actually uploaded Luke's whole slide deck, which we will share as well. So here's Luke's whole slide deck, which I've uploaded. And simply with one button click, I was able to take this document, this PDF, or PowerPoint rather, and turn it into a square post that I could then download as a PDF and share that. So all the takeaways that we shared today, I could share that on LinkedIn. I won't do that because it's Luke's IP, but I can share that as a PDF and upload that. And we know those kind of multiple page document posts perform really, really well. So that was a very speedy run through because we're nearly at the top of time, but 3 different ways that we can easily start to really stand out on LinkedIn. I think if we take some of the really useful, practical best practice that Luke's been kind enough to share today, and then apply that, because it doesn't always need to be, to Luke's earlier point, it doesn't always need to be driven by creative. LinkedIn is one of the lowest bars for creative. Text only works really well, provided it's well spaced. But for when you want to start demonstrating your expertise, sharing your tips, either using those remixable templates that we just shared to share your top tips, repurposing content, like taking, kind of well value packed PowerPoints, uploading them into Adobe them with one click. You can do that. Makes it really easy to share kind of best practice in your content. And, another call to action as well. So if you want to create video, add your subtitles and all of the components, because this is my standard thing. This is what I'm known for. This is my single main topic about social media updates. And that all gets created on one single platform. So it's kind of end to end from creation to publishing. So hopefully that helps you out somewhat. Luke, we've got 1 minute before we have to close out. So any thoughts or questions, anything else you want to add before?
It's great to see that. Actually, I wasn't aware of that with Adobe, so it's really insightful. And actually, to be able to do that with my presentation, I may get the design guys just to whip me up that when I leave this room. So no, I guess if I had one takeaway, I've mentioned it many times, but we can talk all we like about the algorithm and little things you can tweak. The fundamental thing is you need to post value. So get away from everything else, post valuable content, and then you'll see results.
Love it. Absolutely love it. What a wonderful sentiment to end on. Luke, thank you very much for everything you shared today. It's super valuable. And to everyone in the comments and chat, you have really lit this up today and brought this session to life. So really hope this is valuable, but feel free to message Luke and I and keep the conversation going. We are always happy to help. So with that, we'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.